We're moving on to our best of threes, and it's an elimination match with Gambit going up against eSuba. My name is James Banks, and I'm your host as always. And I've got the king, the movie star, whatever else you'll be referenced to.
Wait, this is not about me, James. We're here for the teams and the players, okay? Like, you know, leave your compliment for off the camera stuff.
Is this one as well? You're just checking, you know?
Don't worry about that.
There you go, Yanko, flashy as always, and then we got dressed to impress, Drowlon, Mr. Cool, calm and collected, other than when Big are playing.
Breaking up the Serbian desk.
Yeah, someone had to. It was getting out of control after one map, so.
It became too much. But we're in a weird situation again, where we see Gambit, they dropped the best of one, a Dust 2 game, right, which ultimately Dust 2 used to be a really strong map for him, but I'm always going to come to this, don't play but Dust 2 in the best of one, don't pick it in the best of 3.
I mean, Gambit has been in a weird place lately. I think they're trying to figure out, you know, where they are. Really, that's not a shocking loss, but that massive loss to Navi in the semi-final. No, it's hard to exactly place them now, because it's either, you know, do they suck right now? Are they just not like as good? Did they drop off a lot on LAN? Or is it simply Navi was just that much better than everyone else in that tournament, and any other team on that day would have, you know, gone with the same treatment? So I think that's why they're even playing this tournament, in a sense of they just want more experience on LAN. They understand that's the next step for them, and they're just trying to make sure they can translate the game, which was awesome online, to LAN as well.
Yeah, especially we've seen a bit of maybe questionable veto coming in for the opening game, as you mentioned. Dust 2, not really a map you want to face, especially a team like Fiendon, right? Yep. A bit of an upset there, and also the T sides. It's been an issue since the PGL Major, really. We've seen that stat line I quoted earlier about how they just not willing to take any map control, I guess. We saw it in Dust 2 as well, how much freedom they gave Fiend on long, you know, on mid. So that's the big question mark moving into this series.
And look at this, right, when we just, even before discussing fully in depth the teams and what they've got here, when it comes to the veto situation, when you look at this, Gambit obviously just winning out on everything with the new Instaban coming in, which we saw eSuba have some success on already here at V4. Vertigo and Ancient being key maps for eSuba, maybe they can have a chance of it, but do they even have the caliber of players to try and match up on that?
They definitely don't. I mean, right, like in every single department, Gambit has the advantage, and here it's not just a question of whether Gambit will win. Gambit will win this game. It's just like, it also shouldn't be close, really, right? Like that's the thing. If you're Gambit, this has to be a statement win. It has to be also a confidence boost for your players, right? It's the small things that go from online to LAN. It's not, you know, their tactics didn't change, their defaults didn't really change. It's players who usually would take a lot of responsibility in some defaults, right, and would be a lot more active. They're a bit more laid back. So now the in-game leader is in a position where, well, it's 1 minute and we have no control, where otherwise we would have half of the map at this point, right? And now I can make some calls. I know what I can do. Well, what can I do now? And also we haven't pulled as much utility from the opponents, so it becomes more difficult to play. So that's, I think, what their focus has been on, for them to stay aggressive, you know, to push for control in the defaults and so on, so they could find themselves in more familiar scenarios late round compared to how it was online.
On the other hand, you have eSuba, right, coming into the game after a map against Big, where they got like outscaled both in terms of firepower and in tactics, you know, and now you're staring down the barrel of Gambit. It's just not possible to win against, like, you need 2 maps against them, right? And just not happening probably. I can see maybe an upset happening on 1, you know, that's the most here, but 2 maps is just not happening.
Well, let's take a look at the head-to-head between Shiro and Bloggis in this one, because Bloggis, he did light up the server on day 1 for sure, right? But then afterwards, it was actually more about Savannah in general. Shiro, we know what this guy can do, quite a passive, more defensive AWP, you know, he's not the big flashy star, but he gets the job done and he's always good for it. Even when it comes down to this, Bloggis would have to pull off that crazy performance once again, which we've only seen, well, it was just a flash in the pan. Yeah,
I think the interesting part with the Bloggis performance is just how much freedom he got on that nuke map. So he was pushing Secret from CT very often with the M4, getting multi-kills on yard. Then he also had like rifle rounds all over the map. So that's where I guess it depends how much freedom Gambit gives him on the map. You know, if he can get into those positions where he can lock out Gambit from a certain area of the map, then we might see some success here.
Yeah, and he was a highest rated player in the play-in too.
Yep.
So that definitely helped eSuba make it towards the main tournament. And I think for Gambit, one of their strengths as a team, they were a little bit similar to Astralis in their heyday, a team that doesn't make too many mistakes. They punish your aggression, right?
Machine, yeah.
And they have solid individuals who step up in key moments, like good clutcher, Shiro being one of them. So those plays, like you mentioned, Gambit, if they're on point, they're going to be shutting that down all day long. So we'll see how it happens. Are they still going to be flustered from the initial loss? Are there going to be gaps in their game that eSuba might try to take advantage of?
Now, one thing I'd like to get you guys' opinion on overall when it comes to Gambit, we knew they were playing a lot of games during the online era, right, before they even made it to competing at the Tier 1 events, but they seem to maybe be going back to that as well, trying to do some heavy pursuing of game after game. Is that the right way to go, or do they need a break? Do they need a bit of a timeout? Because they've been going for the longest time now.
I think for them, they should play as many LANs as possible. Obviously not, just all the time, but they should play more LANs just to like get through it, right? This is also a LAN studio environment, no crowd, right? So again, it's a way to get more familiar with the setups, with going to different places, different environments, and so on, just so that you get to that point where it becomes second nature to you and you don't really think about things anymore. You just plug in and you play. So I think they've had a great balance at the start of this second half of the year with having less tournaments and more time to practice. The problem was, just the loss at the major was. So I think people are also like, they beat Fury at 2-0. Like, what do you want? Like, they were 3-1 in their. They were 3-1 in the group stages, right? They got to the semifinal. They lost to the champion of the tournament. It's like, for me, they haven't been underwhelming. Yes, the fact that they lost in such a convincing manner, it sucks for them as well. But I think now it was just on a different level.
It is one of those things, but we're going to go bring in our teams to start off with. And eSuba, they are very much used to this stage, so let's welcome them on. Many of us may have not expected eSuba to get this far, and they've got a real tough test on their hands now going up against Gambit, who may not have all the LAN experience under their belt, but they are looking to try and get that sorted and rise their way back to the top. So let's bring on Gambit.
Dark Wave. Break it down. Dark Wave.
They're looking a lot more happy this time around when they take to the stage, maybe a bit more relaxed, laughing off that best of one, going to a best of three, feeling pretty confident, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for Gambit coming into this one, they're supposed to win this tournament.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. Really, anything else would be a disappointment for them. And now it's, as we talked about, okay, maybe the major people were a bit too harsh on them. If they don't win this tournament, then that's, you know, just criticism that they are supposed to receive.
Yeah, I think you're looking at the bare minimum, a semi-final finish here, right? Depending on who they draw in the semi-finals. But yeah, definitely winning the event as the favorites coming into this event, the most well-rounded team, probably the deepest map pool as well. So you are looking at a bunch of expectations here.
Well, we're getting a Mirage, Overpass, and Inferno for the decider across this best of 3. But like you were saying, Janko, it should be just a 2-0, right? There shouldn't even be a world in where eSuba takes them down on Mirage.
Yeah, Mirage is also a solid map for Gambit. Actually, eSuba, they played it a lot, but their win percentage isn't great. I think there's something like 2-9 or 2-10 on the map. So, but also it's one of those more standard maps, right? So it's not that it's easier to outplay Gambit potentially on a map like Mirage than it is definitely on a map like Overpass. Interesting to see Gambit at the very end go for Inferno over Vertigo. Vertigo has been the map they've lost like 4 times this year up until the major. So that's just a nuts statistic considering how many times they've played it. But yeah, regardless, you just feel like it has to be Gambit all the way.
Yeah, eSuba playing Mirage earlier today against Big, right? Remember how that went. Obviously, complete blowout in the first half, and then we get into the second half on the T side. They did put a bit more of a fight, but that was mostly on the back of just crushing Big's economy in some key rounds. Big struggling to get enough like rifle buys in, but once they built up the economy, they closed the game out, and I think we're going to be looking at a similar ending for this game here.
And just really quickly, right, you mentioned, Janko, you want this to be like a statement win. So we're looking like serious scoreline, straight domination, kind of like the Entropic style?
Yeah, like single digits type of win, right, depending on pistols and whatnot. But, you know, I don't want to see like a close game where Gambit has to grind it out, or God forbid they have to like come back from being like 14-10 down to win 16-14, right? Like, just make a statement win here also for all your other opponents in the tournament. So it just does look like, oh, it was just a one-off best of 1, and now you're down to business, and you know you're just stomping through everyone.
Put the fear back into the opponents.
Exactly.
Let's see if Gambit can do that. And 2 men that, well, they'll put no fear into anyone. It's the beautiful and lovely, kind boys in Dinko and Hawker.
Not scared of me, Banks. I mean, look at my face, dude. That's scary. But we're hopping into this one. You know, Gambit looking to face elimination on day 1. A lot of the top teams in the play-in faced this on day 1 of the play-in tournament as well. So, you know, we've seen those teams. Most of the favorites were able to pick up their best of 3 and continue their way through the tournament. The team that actually put Gambit here, Fiend, were the #1 seed in the play-in. They had to face elimination on day 1 and were able to pull through in the best of 3. I think it's going to be the case here for Gambit Hawk. You know, coming into this, they're returning to LAN again at this level of LAN, right? The fact is we've been seeing them playing so many tier 1 tournaments, but we can't forget this Gambit roster were not so long ago called the Gambit Youngsters, right? They had LAN experience with that team with Supra and not with Hobbit. They played at the WePlay Forge of Masters, they played at Copenhagen Games 2019, DreamHack Open Seville towards the end of 2019 as well. These guys didn't place highly at those LANs. I think the best performance they had was at the WePlay Forge of Masters back in 2019. They came 3rd to 4th. So they're now returning to this level of competition at LAN, but a new beast. Expectations are favorites. They're an elite level team now, and I'm excited to see if they're going to be able to step it up and take a win here.
And that's the difference. The expectation is a lot higher for them, and a lot of people, whether rightfully or not, are disappointed by their performance at the major. As Janko pointed out, they still made it to the semis. I still think they looked okay in most of their games. Against Na'Vi as well, the thing you have to remember is they basically got no chances to play CT side. And normally, I think Gambit's CT side is probably their biggest strength. So the fact they just couldn't get any rounds early was an issue for them. Let's see if they can start strong on the CT side. This time, though, they're kicking things off on that CT side of Mirage.
There's going to be a heavy B play coming in here for eSuba on the T side. Currently 1 defensive player inside of the B side, the other off towards short. They can help out with the Gambit defense, but here comes the push out. Inter's being tested first, but his Axel's hit the first headshot. Inter's calm and collected, finds his follow-up, and Gambit off to a pretty good start here as they're finding every single headshot you need. Just 2 players left for the T side of eSuba, and no one is left as Gambit win the pistol flawlessly. There was no real threat in that one, Hawker.
I went for the B play, but that is a statement at the start of this series from Gambit. They looked a little slow to start in their earlier game against Fiend. It was actually their CT side of Dust 2 that looked quite flat to me. There were plenty of rounds where Inters and Nafany on B just couldn't land shots and couldn't really hold the site as well as you would want them to. So starting strong here on this CT pistol obviously helps them a lot. And now eSuba have absolutely nothing in this round.
Yeah, no bomb plant, no force buy, as they now enter what it should be a shutdown. Shiro off to the good start with the MP9 being picked up. When we look at Gambit, again, you can really start to add context into some of their results. As you were mentioning, you can look at the overall results and say, okay, this team are all liners, but you look at the performance at Cologne, it wasn't too bad at all. Made into the playoffs, you know, got beat up by the champions of the major. I think a lot of people reading into some negative results for Gambit, and then now coming into this LAN, they've lost a best of 1 against Fiend on Dust 2. That can happen to anybody.
Fiend are one of those teams that will just play with pure confidence a lot of the time. And if they are on point individually and you are just slightly slow to start individually, that can easily spiral out of control. So I think you're right. And I think the Gambit, something I was looking up a few months ago was the fact that they have 2 players on the CT side of Mirage who were the highest rated in the world in their specific spots. Shiro was the best rated CT AWPer in the world on this map, and then Hobbit was the highest rated A anchor in all the top 20 teams. So I'm excited they're starting on the CT side here because I think they could start this with a real statement.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at that and see if that transpires throughout the game. Gambit off to a good start here, 2-0, but eSuba are going to be buying into this one. AK-47's out in full force, Gambit keeping just 1 MP9, but the rest are out with AWPs and M4s.
And getting that AWP out early for Shiro is obviously huge. I think this is the map where he can easily just go ahead and post up on a bunch of angles. There's so many options as a CT AWPer and Mirage. We'll mostly see him playing around mid though, and that's where he's going early in this one, but it's a miss.
Yeah, missed shot at the beginning. He's sticking around. He's trying to find the follow-up, and he's missed again. Not a good start here at all for Shiro. He's overrun. Peshin takes him out of play. There was no support because the smoke into window, no aggressive stance from Gambit and Connector, so Shiro was fully committed into that. Now it's time for his teammates to step up and pick up the scraps. Axel's found a kill, but it's been traded out again. And a follow-up frag from Luco has opened up the site completely in towards B. This is a disastrous start for Gambit.
Yeah, Shiro had no support, but realistically, you shouldn't need much support there as an AWPer. You should just be able to get that 1 kill and back away. That's mostly what Shiro's looking for when he makes that jump play up top. And we all thought that Shiro's style would transition quite well to LAN because he is quite passive and back of the pack. He likes to hold angles. I think in general, his play has transferred. Maybe not quite at the start of this game, but at least he's still got loads of money. Hopefully he can make up for that mistake in the future.
Yeah, slow start, but eSuba, that's a nice round to get early. You know, warms them into the game a little bit from their perspective. You're not getting shut out completely. You know, the first couple of rounds were an absolute blowout. They had no say in it. So finding a gun round this early on in the game gives you a little bit of a foothold into the match, gets you a little bit warmed up. Maybe starting to get into this T side. eSuba, a team that have impressed me at this event. They're not one of those teams that are blowing my mind, but I think Blogus in particular is one of the players that did blow my mind in their opening game in particular as an individual. He was just posting some nuts numbers. He is paramount to show up at this point. If they want to win against Gambit, he has got to deliver.
And then in their series against Onyx, it was actually Savannah who top fragged. He went 73 for 43 in that best of 3. Yeah. So a plus 30 KD, pretty impressive from him as the rifler on the team. So a couple of players to watch out for on eSuba if they want to have a chance here. But as the desk correctly painted the picture, it's unlikely. They have found the early kill in this one though.
There's Savannah that has taken Hobbit out. An old Hobbit's die hard, Holger. It's going to be Bloggers peeking up in towards short, trying to follow up the early kill here for eSuba, but the barrel of Axel is about to be sensitive to his death, and Axel luckily gets around the corner. That Itchy charging after him, comes chunk his health down, but not enough to take him out of the round. Now Nafany trying to find the follow-up, but Luco will reply onto him inside a connector. This is a good start here for eSuba, and it might be even better, but Shiro able to recover quickly enough. Looks towards Palace, collects his kill onto Twist, and a 3v3 will ensue.
I'm not sure Twist needed to make that play. They've got the man advantage. Walking out onto A like that is a huge risk. There's a lot of angles. There could have been an AWP there. That's exactly what happens. And now that man advantage is given back over. It still should be a good spot for eSuba though, especially with this map control.
Shiro is going to have a difficult peek here. Luko is so ready, but Shiro, oh, so close, but Luko will take him down. The scope of the sniper held the right position, and Luko with the follow-up. Axel falls into the same hole as Shiro, and now it is just Inter's left with 30 seconds on the other side of the map. No money here for Gambit. Fantastic start here from eSuba on that individual front.
I mean, look, the positive for Gambit you can try and take from this is that Shiro is positioning himself very well right now. He's always in the right spot to try and have impact, just able to hold angles. He's just not landing these shots so far. So if he warms up as the game goes on, it looks like eSuba are going to be giving him fights, sometimes without even using utility. A somewhat slow start for a couple of the individuals for Gambit. I also think earlier in that round, if Axile wasn't taken down to such low health on short, he could have actually hung around and worked with Nafany and Connector a bit better. But because he was so low, Nafany kind of got left out to dry there a bit in Connector. Only able to get the 1-for-1. Bloggis has died to the bomb, but it's not a big deal. It's a second round for eSuba.
Bloggis yet to get on the board with a kill. It's been the rest of his teammates stepping up.
He'll get that up now, though.
And this is where you want to see that hard work pay off. Bloggis was showing some fantastic numbers. If you are just tuning in now in the main event and didn't tune in for the play-in, he's certainly the player for me to watch. Fantastic performances against some of the teams in the play-in side of the tournament.
Ooh. That was the early kill we missed out onto A too. It looked like the molly just didn't quite go deep enough into A ramp, so Savannah could peek behind it. Hobbit didn't really seem aware of that possibility. A couple of unfortunate scenarios here for Gambit early. A couple of unforced errors, you could say. It's put them in a position where eSuba have a good opportunity to take the lead, only up against that one saved rifle of Inters. And Inters normally plays as the B anchor, but in this round, you probably want that one rifle to get more involved. So you can see right now, he's playing jungle instead.
And they're over towards A. Right now, looking like that B information play is going to be made first. If Luko is able to take down the only B player, which is Axel, that's going to open up a massive chance into the site and probably just avoid that stack completely. But they are starting to send a few more players over to try and help out Axel, but he is down immediately. Luko gets a good position, spots the player right in front of him as well. Shiro getting chunked down, his heels being nipped at. Shiro now tucks himself in behind the bench.
Shot right in the Achilles heel, you could say.
Yeah, but somehow he's still standing. He's getting Molotov detonated and finally forced out of bench. Site has been taken. Gambit not really posing too much of a threat. That one player you want to get on board with is Inters because he's found himself Luko. And that rifle will look to be saved as it drops back into position. Legends in towards Connector and should be able to pick up Hobbit. Information at least picked up to Inters. He needs to gather up as much info as possible to try and keep this M4A1S into the next round. That is really the only win you can pull through here on the Gambit side.
There is another kill from Inters, and he should be safe at this point. I wouldn't expect eSuba to hunt down too aggressively. They also want to keep their own economy strong as they take a 3-2 lead. For Gambit here, we heard the desk point out, they want to see a convincing win. They want to see this Gambit team making a statement. And I think the most important thing now is that they don't let these early rounds get in their heads, because they're not making bad decisions. Generally, the decision-making has been fine. There's just been either missed shots or maybe sloppy utility. So as soon as Gambit can shore that up, I think they should be okay, considering how this game has started. Good stuff for eSuba, though. Making the most of the opportunities they've been given. And we'll see if they can keep it up here on the T side of their pick.
Just about Gambit trusting themselves. They are making the right moves, but eSuba winning out those individual fights. Finally, Shiro at the beginning of a round gets one, but that's Bloggis answering it back. Shiro sticks around, and because of that, gets traded out. He did a lot of heavy lifting to get that opening pick, but it's short-lived as we go 1 minute and 25 seconds. Peshin's underpass walkout. Trying to find Daphne towards Connectors. Gonna start rattling his cage a little bit, but it's Axel that's been taken out. Assassinated. It's now a 4v3 will ensue with eSuba ahead in the man advantage. It's starting to look a little worrying again in this gun round for Gambit.
You can see Gambit trying to get active on the map. Now that they're a man down, They're hoping they can group up for this mid control, maybe find some early kills between them, and then potentially retake a site later. But the response from eSuba after getting the man advantage is just to group up towards a site, try and use their strength in numbers, and as it stands, this should be an easy take towards A. Yeah. Only Nafny anywhere near.
And he's not got any info. They can just walk out, play contact straight in towards the A side, clear out these close positions. Twist is making a lot of noise. Drew Nafny back to peek from stairs because he heard the player pushing in from Tetris. Because of that, Nafny gets shut down from Palace Peak. Right now for Gambit, another misfired round, not really being able to capitalize on that early pick from Shiro, just sticking around maybe. You know, he gets himself in a good spot, gets that opening, but he did show a tendency, at least in the first gun round, to hang around too much and go for that second shot. Feels like eSuba right now are forcing them to respect them a little bit early on, which is exactly what this team needs to do.
It is good to see the buddy system used well by eSuba in that round too. After Luco gets picked off, they had the AWP of Bloggers behind to make sure a trade possibility was there. And a 1-for-1 trade at the start of a round on Mirage is normally something the Ts will be pretty happy with, because there are a lot of different positions on Mirage you have to be scared of as the CT, especially if you lose mid control. That's when the splits towards the sites can be really devastating, and it can be quite difficult for those CTs to work together. These Gambit get to carry on over a couple of guns, but got to get to a point where it's not just the consolation of saving guns at some point.
Yeah, that's literally the only wins Gambit have been able to get right now is
moral victories.
Done. They saved the AWP into the next round.
You know what they say, Dinko? Moral victories are for minor league coaches.
Axel, he has a play that's kind of dropped off, I think, a little bit here for the Gambit side over recent months. I think throughout their online period was so integral to their way of playing, their system of opening up rounds. He really hasn't been able to find that same level of impact recently, Hawker.
Yeah, we were looking at some of his numbers in the last 3 months. His CT rating is still very strong at a 1.29 rating on CT side. And it is normal for players to have a drop-off on T side, because it's just generally the hardest side to play. But you don't normally see a drop-off as much as Axile's, down to a 0.99 rating on T side. And he's been taking less early fights too, so that could be part of the reason why Gambit have had some issues. But here's a round where we get something different from Gambit. Not the default setup, instead they're going to contest for mid-control early.
A rare sight, the A4 in play in the hands of Nafny, as he looks to take some top mid-control, playing anti-flash with his teammate Axel watching from window. Shero is available if needed from connector as well, so mid-control established for Gambit at the beginning of the round. It looks like, though, eSuba leaning in towards a B hit.
And already Axel has come through with the rotate. A full set of utility for him. Inter's also now looking for info, but I'm not sure he spotted Twist get up close, and Twist may be able to hear this jump peek.
Oh,
if he can time this, this could be such a nice entry.
Inter's just jump spotting. Difficult shot to hit, of course. Still on the jump peak. They are just waiting for that explosive moment, that sign to go, and here it comes. They tried to time it, they couldn't get the kill, and now Inters throws down the smoke to play inside of it. Flashbang coming in for Axel to try and help himself out, but Inters has just been destroyed, and so has Axel. Savannah with the double entry. The B site hold does not hold water, and this is starting to look rough for Gambit as they lose too many members. Are they even going to attempt the round win? There's been so many times it's just been shut out. They haven't had a start in this game, they haven't been involved at all, and Nafny trying, but only one kill. And Shiro will not be attempting this one. Save call for him, and Gambit lose another.
I've got to see those entries again from Savannah. It looked like he just jumped onto
Goomba
the car. Exactly. That looked like a wild initial entry. But the fact that they are able to sneak up close is so nice, because you can just call for that quick flash in, and it's not as easy for Inters to play the survival game, which is what he wants to do as that B anchor. Maybe if he's a bit further back, he can actually drop that smoke and get back to bench, have a bit more cover. But he got trapped at car, and that's a position you can easily overrun, as we saw. And it's pretty rare that you see a team have 2 players ready on the B site and not get a single kill on the hold.
That is very rare indeed. It looked like a little bit of mistiming on utility as well. Axel's flash actually caught Inters, I think, as well, which blinded him here. But there's not much you can do about that. I mean, that's just a leaping player straight into car. Often the entry player will jump out the window as well. So he's actually just entered off the platform straight into the van. And it's worked out very well. Axel would just cut off from his teammate. Here, Gambit going to a low buy again. AWP was saved for Shiro in the last round, but they have the Eagles and 5-7s around it. Not exactly the prettiest of buys, Blogus attempts the opening to ramp, but couldn't connect the shot.
Oh, this is great timing from Nafany, though. He may have even heard that player run back as he pushed into ramp. So just hearing that AWP shot allows him to gain some ground. And with eSuba grouping outside of A, could be very nice to have this early warning system. Even a smoke in his hands, which could help slow things. Gambit have tried a couple of these risky stacks at points in this game that haven't gone right. This is the first time it looks like the read could be correct, and that could make this round really dicey.
There you go, eSuba. Often they have got info before the attack, but this time they're just going straight in with the execute. Those smokes have actually isolated off 2 players, though, so there's no longer this 4-man setup inside of the site. It's just 2 players inside now, and Hobbit's position, is it going to be checked? He's got Shiro's ult playing in front of the smoke. Petchen's gone down, and Hobbit gets blinded. He tried to get aggressive. He tried to find the Deagle body shots, but it's not happened for him. And now there's a little bit of a stifle in the play. eSuba's trying to back off and send that bomb back B.
Yeah, Nafany counter-smoked ramp, so eSuba weren't comfortable committing. They used a lot of smokes on that play. Nafany's single smoke stops them from being able to push, and now Gambit go back to a default setup. They want players on all over the map, but Inters is low.
He's hiding behind the bench, just trying to buy some time for extra rotations, trying to get his teammates in behind and potential flanks, but Inters from bench release to deliver one, and the headshot is there. Nice flick out from Twist to reply in the trade. Instantaneous, but the flank, as I was pointing out from Axel, really needed to reap some rewards. A fruitful endeavor, but it has not reaped the reward at all. And Blogus around the backside. AWP peers onto Axel. This shot is a saving grace here for Gambit, but they don't really have the weaponry to attempt this. And Shiro really isn't one of those players that has that play style that he'll want to go and just be explosive. He's going to wait for his teammates to try and activate the chances. And now Shiro into the clutch. We know he can win these. Certainly he can. He goes for the no-scope, and now just 1 player left. Tosses the smoke down onto the bomb. There's no kit on the back of Shiro. This time it's ticking. The Tech-9 knows. He's got it off the defuse, and the headshot from Blogus will connect. Shiro down and out of the round. AWP will not be carried over, but cash is available for Gambit. They make it expensive, but the money is so good for eSuba.
I was about to say, normally, Shiro might be okay with just taking the AWP out of his opponent's hand, but Blogus had nearly 16k, so he's going to buy that back, no problem. So that first shot, Shiro boosted up. Yeah, that's a boost we're seeing more and more often as a way to come back in. The transfer was good from Twist to at least get that 1 frag back. Gambit did a pretty good job at making this round competitive, considering the circumstances, but this is still 6 in a row for eSuba, and Axel's already down low at the start of this one.
Yeah, it's been a fast mid-control take again here from Gambit, similar to the last round you guys watched just in the previous at home. This time, it's not connecting anything for Gambit, finally. A pick will come through, Nafany nearly gets back for the second. eSuba doing a fantastic job right now at just keeping this even. Just drawing these kills back instantly. And Twist leaping out of Palace. Oh, it's a long spray, but Hobbit will go down to it.
Huge fight on the A side. The rotate is so far away, and Luco can even get into the window. Perfect position to cut off the rotate.
And Gambit had so many players in mid early.
The bomb's in spawn, but he's not chasing him.
Yeah, Inter's in following up on this. But just looking at that round, they had so many players in mid early for Gambit. They ran the setup. Nafany gets the first kill of the round. Shiro was able to find a follow-up. But it's just so quick on the trades from eSuba. Usually, if you get those 2 kills on the CT side, you've locked down mid-control. But eSuba were relentless in fighting back for it. We'll see if Inters can win this 1v3. Stuck up in Palace. It's going to be very unlikely to see a way even into the site here.
I was wondering if eSuba were going to leave to try and hunt him. There are a couple of players somewhat far away from the bomb, but I don't think it's going to happen here. Savannah's only got the AWP, so if you smoke this bomb, it's planted default. It could actually be awkward.
Oh, he's got the smoke at the ready,
Surely
Hawker.
not.
Here we go. Oh, right into the side. Savannah had him at Palace anyway. Shot connected. Nice attempt from Inters, but that really is telling the whole story, isn't it? That's the kind of plays that Gambit are having to resort to try and win some rounds. It's being absolutely shut out at the beginning of Mirage.
And their money still isn't good. The fact that they won the pistol and haven't won a round since is wild. And eSuba are doing a solid job at finding trades in a lot of these scenarios. 3 for 3 as the mid play comes through, it goes into that 3v3 scenario, and they'll take that. They had the player coming in through underpass who was able to trade out Shiro just as he got his opportunity.
Second timeout used for Gambit already here, Hawker. As the heavy favorites of this matchup, let me just set a little bit more context for you. Gambit are number 3 in the world on the HLTV ranking. eSuba are number 62 on the HLTV world ranking.
That ranking's actually improved too since this event started. They were 78th before coming into the event. I remember writing down.
Pretty wild stuff.
Making a name for themselves.
Really are. I heard there's a lot of chit-chat about some of the players in this side, so everybody getting excited about what Bloggers can do. We'll see if he can have a star-studded performance against Gambit. It's a quick play in to be at the beginning of this one, though. From eSuba, they throw a flash that's going to start to worry some of the Gambit players early on here. There is only one player inside of the B site, and that's Axel, just with a Deagle. There's not much utility at all right now into this B site, and they're going to pick up that info, knowing that if you throw one flash and nothing's come into the apartments, surely there's not that much utility available for the CT side.
At least Shiro is somewhat close with the M4. So if Axel could just get a kill and maybe survive, that M4 from short may be able to help out, but even that's a long shot considering the guns that Gambit have. Winning this round, it seems unlikely.
Especially with the new Deagle up there, right? The body shots, you can't get as many multi-kills out of it if they run over the top of you. Axel, unlikely to get a multi-kill here. Would have to land some brilliant headshots, and maybe with Shiro, they can work in tandem. A1S placed below the window. Looking for a headshot. Does start it off well. Petchin out of the round. Second fight given to Shiro. 1 versus 1's now coming in against the Russian. And this starts to be a little bit of a worrying round now for eSuba, who started with pace and potency towards the beginning of the round, but now have to start thinking about another option, and certainly they have opened up that chance to get back into A with the underpass kill. Shiro's trying to rotate over in time. His teammate is towards CT spawn here in Inters, but he's only got a USP, so it really has to be Shiro, and Twitch just confidently peeks into him. Inters has got a player who's extremely low, and they're looking the wrong way. The USP behind the head headshots, though, not being able to connect him, and Inters' chances start to dwindle. Axel gets caught by Twist as well. You can see the frustration a couple of the players' faces here for Gambit, as once again Inters into an unwinnable clutch. Just a USP in his hand. He's also taking damage from the AWP on the crossover. Bomb planted for both of the T's at short in this post plant, and Inters has no shot at this round at all. What a nightmare it's been here so far for Gambit. They really haven't been in this game, Hawker.
No, it has been tough for them. And this is a round that looked somewhat more hesitant from eSuba. They all grouped up are outside B at the start of the round. And so as they took more and more time, they started to get a bit concerned about whether Gambit had taken some information elsewhere, whether they were maybe getting flanked. So thankfully, they sent one player back to spot out that aggression. And that allowed them to realize once this B stack was in play that they could have that ability to go back to A. It was a good mid-round call in the end for eSuba. I also think Inters maybe could have just tried to deny the bomb plant. With that player having his back turned, it's so hard to get that kill with the USP. Getting the kill onto the site may have been the better bet, but it was just a low buy. Now we've got the guns back out and no mid control being contested this time. But Shiro sitting back and waiting patiently.
Quick kill there from Shiro, very quick indeed. Blog is down.
Oh no!
A little bit of team damage coming in. Savannah gets chunked down.
It's too easy for eSuba right now. They're doing team damage
Yeah,
even.
they're giving Gambit a chance here, Hawker. That's all they're doing.
So nice of them.
They're so used to playing face-to-face. That's probably what it is. Axel is going to pick up Savannah. Luko down in this B attack is not really finding too much, but suddenly Petchin comes in with a double. Axel and Inters both down so quickly, and suddenly back into a winnable round for eSuba. Twist is playing the ball, but it's not for his teammate in the post plant. He's playing towards short, and they know that. They know where Petchin is. And so Twist is in the site. This could get a little bit worrying for eSuba, and Petchin realizes he can't afford just to play from short. It's not going to work out, and Gambit are playing the patient game. Nafny's waiting for Petchin to come into his crosshair, waiting for the mistake to come to them before they explode in this retake attempt, but realizing now they have to take the fight themselves as they walk right into Petchin. It's another kill for him on the way out, but Gambit get back into the site. Finally, a round will go their way.
Good patience from Gambit in the retake. I think they realized one player was probably stuck somewhere around the site, so you don't want to go charging in when he's in a somewhat vulnerable position. As long as you can play together, you should have a good chance to find those trades. These kills from Petchin were impressive, though. The timing in on the B split from short was solid. He was able to get 2 players caught off guard. But Gambit do a really solid job at coming back into it. And that is something they generally are good at. The patience play on the retake, oftentimes successful for them. They're going for the same setup at the start of this one, Gambit. It worked for them in the previous round. They're giving up mid entirely and stacking 3 on A for the early info play.
Twist plays up on the boost position in front of Nafny. He's crouching here, Nafny, to try and see the feet to cross it over, but Twist is aware of that possibility. Doesn't want to put himself in a spot where he could lose his life early on at the beginning of round 12. Nafny might be under pressure now. His teammate's going to throw a smoke down. We'll see here a little bit of info from the other side of the ramp smoke, and they're really countering this aggression from Gambit, and it's worked so well! Twist with a double kill. Shiro tries to plug the hole, but he's been smoked off, and in behind the cover of the CT smoke, he has to lie, and that has given some space to play with for eSuba, but they're not too confident about walking through ramp until they have the second prong of their approach, which Axel is trying to remove. He's trying to cut down the numbers, and he's got the perfect chance.
Nice proactive play from Axel to bring his team back. That vent still hasn't been broken, and Inters is on the other side of it. eSuba looking for the approach onto A. That smoke will help them dearly. They'll look for the bomb plant in the open. Axel was trying to spam through, but no way to deny. It has to be another retake for Gambit, but they have solid nades to try and make it happen.
Axel trying to come through into window. Savannah has taken good position. Blog is eliminating Inters from the round, and the retake attempt might just have to be cancelled here. Shiro into 1 versus 3 has no shot, and Blogus peeks right into him. Gambit are struggling to a great extent here on Mirage, and they are just not in this game, Hawker.
It looked like Axel had the information. He saw the player was up close. He tossed a nade into that angle. But the way that Savannah drops down makes it so difficult. And that early ramp control was such a cool way of doing it. You put a molly in, and you're just comfortable that your own player can stand in the teammate's molly. It won't do that much damage to him, so he can just stand in the flames. Have to get quick kills in that scenario, but that's exactly what Twist delivered.
Yeah, eSuba have so much explosive ability right now. They're just pulling out some ridiculous multi-kills at crucial times, pulling the trades back or finding the openings. eSuba now lean back into B. They often love to do this. They fight for mid, they pull out some utility at the beginning of the round, they don't commit too heavily and lose a member, and now they're turning their attentions into this weakened B defense again. It has struggled, and it's just an MP9 here for Inters. They're going to put pressure onto him. Flash is coming through. Inters has got one in the hold immediately, but that's all he'll find as he's traded out by Twist. Now Axel's turn to try and hold on to the B site. He's found the bomb, and that rotation now from Shiro has arrived at the crucial time. A kill out of Shiro delivered. And this is starting to cut the numbers down significantly for the eSuba side. We're going to have to see some of that explosive prowess yet again from eSuba to try and cut these numbers back into an equilibrium. They also have to recover the bomb and put it down in the site. It's not going to be an easy round here as Gambit surround their prey. They surround their objective, but Twist has caught Axel in the right spot at the right time, and that has dropped the numbers closer to even odds. Blogus now commits to the bomb plant as Twist moves forward to take some space back. He can find a 1v1 with that smoke up, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Hobbit is now down, and Shiro's looking for the recovery. He had an opportunity, but couldn't get it, and Twist has got aggressive. He's found Nafny, and it's all on Shiro. 4 versus 2, and now it's done. Blogus with the kill. Gambit being toyed with, and eSuba are outmatching Gambit in every single circumstance.
That is a stunning round loss for Gambit. They will not be happy about that one, but eSuba did a really good job at using their utility to isolate some early fights. They used the smoke towards kitchen, the molly on towards short, forced Gambit into making a decision. Do they want to just sit back and let the bomb plant happen, or do they want to contest? And as that player tries to go through the molly, they find that initial pick, and that was the first card to fall. The House of Cards topple behind it. Such an impressive round from eSuba. Normally, Gambit are really good at playing patiently in those sorts of scenarios. They're happy to give up the site control and play retake, but it doesn't work for them there.
Just getting cut off by some proactive play from eSuba. Nafny again has loved this mid aggression. He's always trying to be a nuisance here. Hasn't been able to make it work. So often he's a fantastic player. It's a specialty playing in and around utility in the early round. It's worked out this time. Axel and Nafny, 2 kills for Gambit. At the beginning of round 14, no answer yet from eSuba, but here it begins. Savannah with a headshot onto Nafny.
Gambit don't need to take any more fights here, but Axel wants to, and he could give away that B bomb site, but there's a flank from Hobbit in spawn.
Hobbit is getting the info, trying to get behind. He's found the bomb. He's taken down Blogus. And now they call for that. Savannah realizes it's likely a 1 versus 1 towards that bomb. And he is going to have to try and turn this round forward for his teammate Savannah. You're down, Shiro catches twist in mid. Savannah's so slow and tentative to try and recover the bomb, but he's got to fight on two fronts. He's not ready for Hobbit, but he's giving away his position. This could be a nightmare for Gambit as Savannah pulls it back. Just gets caught by Shiro. Wasn't expecting the last player to be there so quickly. And thank God for Gambit, because that could have been a disaster again.
Oh, Savannah hit with the instant facepalm. As soon as he realized Gambit were there ready for the trade, he knew he had a chance given to him. I'm still so surprised that Axel goes aggressive on short, because Hobbit was pushed all the way through A. They had all the information that A was clear. If you just sit back on B and wait for that flank, that's probably your best opportunity. And you see Hobbit eventually strike. It wasn't clean at the end, but Gambit makes sure they do get into position for the trades in time.
That was Hobbit doubling a scoreline, man. He has been a non-factor in this game so far. Usually we talk about Hobbit being such an impactful player. He is the player with that LAN experience, with the experience when it comes to crunch times. But we're right into the round. It's an execute and 3 players down for Gambit. We're right into play. And here we are, bomb down. Looking so good here for eSuba. Apologies for missing the beginning of that round, guys at home, but we are right into the action, and it might just be done in the blink of an eye as Gambit are down low on health on Axel. It's just inters on a FAMAS, and just when Gambit find a way back into the half, it looks like it will be closing at 11-4.
You gotta go for it, boys.
You have to at this point. They really have not found many chances in these retakes. He couldn't close a 4v2, never mind 2v4 as they try and claw their way back in. Inters will certainly get one. It's just Axel around the backside. Tried to line up, but 11-4. Disappointing half here for Gambit in the elimination game. This has not been an inspiring performance at all, but eSuba, we've got to get behind this side. This is impressive from them. They're taking that number 3 team and making them look mortal, making them look amateur.
I think eSuba had a really good idea of how they wanted to come in and play this T side too. You pointed it out really well that they would play for some early map control across the map, and then they would quite quickly group up and just use their strength in numbers. They did that in a bunch of those rounds, and I really loved it in the last round of the half. That's when they just throw in the A execute off the bat, because that's something they barely did throughout the rest of the half.
And when you're running that play style, you can't afford to lose the early player. And if you do, you have to trade it immediately. And that's exactly what eSuba were doing every single round. They either didn't play too aggressively and lose a player, or when they did, they were so quick to snap up that trade kill. How many times have we seen Shiro trying to get some active kills at the start of the round? He's successful in getting it, but he's instantly cancelled out. It just happened pretty much every time. They've done a fantastic job at limiting the impact of Shiro, but also Nafany. He's a player that, again, we pointed out, can be so difficult to deal with in the early round when he's playing in and around his own utility. But this time, in mid, he really didn't get too much going for him at all. They were just left wondering, are they going to go mid? And had to make those rotations back into B. And, well, we can't really talk about the B defense without mentioning how weak it was for Gambit so many times.
Third tactical timeout taken by Gambit ahead of the pistol round. They won the pistol in the first half. That led to 2 of the 4 rounds they got in total. Let's see if they can do the same here on their T side. They have the A play at the ready. Flash from Nafany in hand, and they're going for it.
Yeah, Petchin's hiding behind triple, trying to use the distraction of his teammates, and that has allowed one assassination to come in from Petchin. Luko and Savannah have shown up to the execution as well on the site. Axel alongside Shiro trying to pull themselves out of a hole, but not today. It's like Batman, the last one, but they just fall to their death.
And that is a pistol round that Gambit just could not afford to lose. Especially not even getting a bomb plant. You can't even have that ability to try and force up straight away and break the CT bank. If you do go for the full spy here, it's going to be weak, and a couple of players have already started investing.
And you know that it is definitely a factor here where you're talking about Gambit on their opponent's map pick, but it's not really those issues that are coming through right now. They're just not winning a lot of individual fights. They're not really able to get those trades in efficiently. They're not finding kills, essentially, Hawk. It's been a strange and slow start here for Gambit. Up next will be Overpass. We know how comfortable Gambit can be there. That's got to be in the back of their mind now as they're getting toyed with on Mirage. It's all about keeping that positive mindset. You know, we have seen some tweets from the players here on Gambit's side. They do struggle a little bit mentally at times, especially with, you know, the pressure of the community on this side. You know, calling them onliners, even though their performances are good, can definitely add up for these young players. That mental game can stack up, but it's all about, if you want to be elite, you've got to make sure that you can deal with that and shrug it off and focus up again. And this is going to be a real test for Gambit to try and stay in this competition.
Well, they've gained some ground onto A in this specific round.
They just need a bomb plant here.
Exactly. That's the main aim at this point, and there is no smoke to really help them, so CT has to be a concern. Run boost across. They'd love a Deagle headshot to give them a chance, but there it is. One from Shiro.
Oh. Goes
Nice.
again for a second. Bomb plant secured, and yeah, that's job done. You know, Interest isn't doing much here. Gets taken out by the MP9. But bomb plant for Gambit, quite a recessive setup from eSuba that allows that to come through, but that gives them extra money in the next round.
That's what Gambit needed.
Then we can get the AWP out on Shiro. Ooh, it's going to be a tough buy, but maybe with the way Hobbit's playing, you might want to give him the AWP. Just let's get that out, get the AK on over it. But they're going to buy up and maybe just go with the full rifles at the beginning of this one.
Yeah, they'll go with the AKs here. They should be confident. Falling back on those rifles should be fine for them with all the utility at their disposal. Gambit have to dig deep if they want any chance here on this first map. This is their opportunity, but they are up against that AWP of Blogis, and instead of taking a fight towards mid, as a lot of AWPers may like to do, he's gone over to B in this first gun round. Maybe seeing if he can catch someone off guard, but Gambit right now are much more focused on the A side of the map. I think you can see eSuba playing somewhat differently to Gambit on this A site specifically. Hobbit was oftentimes playing committed to the site, under Palace, for example. Those are positions that rely on your teammates, whereas eSuba's setup, you can see on the map, is a little more passive. Savannah's playing back, and now that they've got the rotate, Petchem will start to play up close over on A ramp.
Gambit want to try and get into a position to be able to A split this. They want to get 2 players through ramp, 1 through Palace. Maybe they just leave 1 mid lurker to cut off rotations as the other pushes through connector. Gambit looking to make this play as we go under a minute. We'll see if eSuba can start to disrupt this, and they found Hobbit. A player down in the attack, removing the ramp threat significantly. And now there's a bit more pressure on Nafany's play to work out through connector, but he's being blinded. And he's forced back into his position in con. Luco now sitting in the ladder room. Axel about to peek into him. The AK trying to open up the round here for Gambit to try and find a way back into this. But it's not happening. And now more pressure on Nafany. He has to step up. He has to get this kill. And he's not even going to check his corner. Twist takes him out with the MP9. And what can Gambit do here? They're sitting ducks. They're down too many members. And Shiro's got to pull off some massive impact just to drag them through to a winnable situation. And he hasn't found a single kill. The MP9 of Twist removes him. The bomb is back near ramp. Not enough time to do anything in this round, and Gambit will have to concede. The 8K carried over for Inters, but 14 rounds now for eSuba. Gambit didn't even have a fight in this round.
I like the play between Luco and Blogis there, over towards B short. The shoulder of Luco gets spotted. Axar tries to take fights towards B, and he ends up just getting baited into an AWP that was holding the angle. And you will sometimes see Axar playing like that, going for dry peeks, going for information plays. That's a scenario where he has to just walk into the AWP. This was a slight gap in the smoke that Petchem was able to make the most of. And as you can see there, easy shot from Blogis. Nafany not ready for that position, and at that point, the round was effectively over. No one there to trade. No chance for Gambit.
Yeah, looked like the point man in the round to start the execute was Nafany. I think he got caught by a good flash from eSuba that really threw everything into the works. And obviously when Hobbit goes down through the smoke, this is a disaster. eSuba playing very disruptive Counter-Strike, but not doing it in a way that's too risky either. Not too much risk to their defense. Let's see if Nafany and the boys here for Gambit can find a way back into this. It's going to be AK in the hands of Inters, and the timing on the peak onto Nafany. Frustrating game for him, but Shiro at least trades it out. Now they're going to look to smoke off top connector, securing at least mid-control here for the T side.
Smoke back from Hobbit, but he's standing in the flames. Taken down to 28 health. Inters beats that utility. He should hear that player falling back. There's a chance he can catch them off guard now.
Oh, Inters does. Finds the headshot in towards the B side. Block is down. And maybe a gaping hole in this B defense for them to capitalize upon. Again, that rotation is starting to be made. A little bit of a timer on the play now for Gambit as Twist has arrived to try and bolster the defense completely. Hobbit in position to cut off rotations, apply a nuisance into the late round, and he has spotted his prey. Begins to track him through the woods and might just be able to eliminate Savannah, but he is a master of the jungle as he drops back and goes over towards CT spawn. Petchem holding on for the peek through the window. Savannah's completely conceded position, and Petchem's frag onto Shiro. Dropping back, and Hobbit makes it expensive. No save call there for Savannah. Petchen's best chance is to try and carry this M4 into the next one. And Hobbit, having taken significant damage in his earlier fight, is going to have to let Petchen drop back as Gambit will recuperate and find themselves a 5th round. A small victory, but it's the first step of a very long road back into this game, Hawker. It has to be flawless if they want to win in regulation. But even then, I'm just looking for Gambit to pick up a few rounds. Just get into the game, just feel like they're in this match, because they haven't been this entire time. On that individual front, they just haven't been fragging. They need to have a couple of these individuals just warm up. They need to have Hobbit have a couple of good rounds to get confident, get going. Nafany has to have some of his plays work out. They need a few rounds here at a minimum if the comeback isn't even going to come through.
This was nice from Inters. Just being ahead of the molly makes a massive difference. eSuba had put the molly down onto Short. They probably called that Short doesn't have to be worried about. So Inters, just by beating the utility, is able to catch that B player off guard. And that really opens the door to that B bomb site. So just a nice individual play, individual moment there from Inters. Those are the sorts of plays that we need to see from Gambit, though, to get them back into this. And Hobbit spots out the early aggression this time. The pistols from eSuba, yeah, not with much of a chance anymore.
And this is the perfect kind of round, as I was saying previously, to maybe get Hobbit warmed up, get him a little bit more confident, and a few kills on the board. Yeah, let's find the opening here. And as you said, just pistols now left after losing Petchen down in underpass, so not a lot to play with at all. Gambit taking their time. Do not want to concede this one. And Inters, oh, he's caught sleeping at the wheel. Good peek there from Savannah to be aware of that position, and Inters goes down. An AK now into the hands of Savannah. 4 versus 3 and a minute left for Gambit as they begin their walk through Short. They want to enter into this B site. Axel's coming up through the underpass to join them. So they can approach the B site from 2 avenues.
I think eSuba have realized they can stack B because Gambit won't want to go A up against that AK that Savannah's stolen.
They're going to try and their best, but they just don't really have the weapons here to realistically have a shot. Lookout gets 1 on the USP, which is an overperformance in and of itself, but it is traded out very quickly by Gambit and Savannah now. This game is just saving the AK. Gambit will be happy about a 6th round, but it's not done easily. They do lose a couple of players through the way, and Inters has been caught a couple of times.
He was watching Palace there instead of the ramp angle, which is why he gets caught off guard so quickly. You could have held it from further back if he wanted to, and that makes it a little easier to watch both of those sides. But either way, a 6th round will be delivered shortly for Gambit. I've really enjoyed seeing this eSuba team surprise a lot of people. We weren't even sure if they would make it through to this portion of the tournament, but they did so in pretty convincing fashion in the end. They beat Ago in their opening game. Blogis on Nuke having a monster performance with 45 kills in that overtime game. And then they went on to beat Onyx 2-1 to put themselves here. Obviously took that loss against Big earlier. It's put them down into this elimination game, but they're proving that they can hang with the best of them right now. Even if Gambit aren't quite at their best.
Certainly not.
Oh, eSuba.
Far below it. Yeah, eSuba going for their first tactical timeout. Feeling the pressure a little bit now, wanting to make sure that they stifle any momentum, any foothold Gambit might be getting into this game now. Just try and shut them out. You know you've got a lot of timeouts available, and you've got a lot of chances to try and close this game. You're 14-6 up. You just need 2 rounds to try and take Mirage, and you are 1 step away, 1 map away if you take Mirage here at eliminating Gambit on day 1 of the V4 Future Sports Festival.
As we were pointing out earlier, this is the map pick of eSuba, but it's still not a great sign for Gambit. This is normally a map they can play, they can be competent on. They're normally competitive on Mirage.
Especially with the opposition they're going up against.
Yes.
It's polar opposites. You know, we have the team who's 62nd in the world versus number 3.
Just the individuals you would expect to win Gambit quite a few rounds. That hasn't happened so far. Orp for Blogis is back out to the B apartments. He's been enjoying taking this angle so far early in this second half. Gambit taking a much slower start to proceedings this time. Default stance played across the map, waiting out some of that utility from eSuba, but eventually they'll have to gain some ground of their own, and with just over a minute left on the clock, the mid control finally being contested. But eSuba have another smoke ready for Connector. Luca's got that lineup.
Now will allow his teammate to peek in and around Connector and causing problems and trying to disrupt Gambit from taking their mid default. Well, Molotovs out towards window. There's that connector smoke up. Petchin's going to be playing in behind the smoke.
He heard that molly tick. He knows Axel's in here.
And he's going to check for it. Axel hits the headshot, though. Crucial kill to find, and Luko's trying to take down a couple of these Gambit players, but they're shielded by the smoke for the time being. Savannah pressure from 2 avenues. Able to get 1 kill, and now twist position given up. He's threaded out, and Gambit have the site. Just 1 player left, and it's Blogus. He gets the info on the cross and over. Nice flick down to connect onto the head of Hobbit. And a 1 versus 2 in total for the star man of eSuba. Let's see if he can get this one going, or if he even attempts this. $550 in his back pocket. He's going to go for it, jumping in towards window. He's hoping Gambit give him a chance. He can't go through CT spawn because that murder hole has not been broken open. And so really, he's struggling to find an opportunity, a pathway into a round where he can feel comfortable about this, and you can't blame him for backing off and saving not a lot of money for his team, and Gambit gets 7 rounds. That's after the tactical timeout from eSuba as well, so Gambit really starting to itch the way into the game now. It's not really that comfortable yet, but at least a couple of rounds now going their way.
That early frag from Axar was so key in connector there. That's the fight that really makes the difference in the round, because you see the positions that eSuba are playing on A, that man at triple is exposed to basically every angle possible, including connector. So once they lose that, he just gets ganged up on from 3 sides. And I like that eSuba are willing to try and take initiative with that flash into con. It's a high-risk play. It could have worked, but Axel was ready for it this time.
And that's exactly what we're talking about before this, how integral Axel getting the opening kills can be, in particular for Gambit's T side, how much he's been struggling lately on that T side performance. If he can have a good game here, this can turn this around for Gambit, no problem.
Very different round here. It's a fast one.
A massive round here needed as well. They up against 4 Deagles in the AWP. You can't afford to lose a round like this. So, with conviction, they take the B site. Twist goes down to the quick headshot of Hobbit. No shot. They stack the wrong site.
No nonsense round from Gambit.
So, just rush B.
Yeah, they need a few more like this. Comfortable, convincing.
Just get yourself into the game.
Looking good to do that.
Yeah, rocking some of those gold stickers on the AK, of course. Gambit fresh off their champion stage performance. Good win against Furia. Couldn't quite get it done against Na'Vi, who, well, obliterated them in that performance. It has been a tough road, I'm sure, for a lot of these players mentally, because they are very young and are new to this whole experience of having so many people on board and, you know, wishing for your downfall, really.
We've seen some of the other teams who played in the play-in grow throughout the tournament too. And I wouldn't be surprised if Gambit would be in a similar camp where maybe they took a bit of time off after that major. I wouldn't blame them for that, honestly. I think it's probably good to get away from the game at that point a bit once you've had that sort of massive loss, just completely disconnect and maybe just reset mentally. But that may mean that they need a bit of time to warm up into this tournament. I mean, you look at Fiend, for example, they've just grown throughout this event. Right? They were struggling on the first day. They've come back. They've shown us what they can do.
And poor Gambit, right? You end up getting Fiend in your opening game in a best of 1. There's no worse team, really, to play against that. Yeah, they just can stomp some of the best teams in the world. I remember watching them at IEM Fall against FaZe Clan. They were able to win 16-8 on Mirage. You just stomp these teams out. Sometimes there's no shot for them.
Guns back out here. eSuba haven't contested this mid control too heavily so far. Blogus has generally been AWPing around either B apartments, or in this round, he's actually sitting all the way back on Ticket Booth. This is a hefty stack towards the A side of the map for eSuba, though. They've got 3 players committed to A, then Luko isn't too far away in jungle, and this could be the perfect read right now for eSuba. If these crossfires are lined up on A, this could be a lockout.
Nafny's going to try and clear out Petchin in the close position. Good headshot. No trade coming in for Shiro because he's the AWPer right now. Doesn't really want to swing. Wants to win in the rifle. And eventually does get his kill even through the smoke. Inter successful in cracking open Savannah's head. And now that puts pressure on Blogus. Not the best position to have an open. Hobbit is starting to wake up. He's come out of his Hobbit hole and now he's ready to fry, Corker.
That's more like it. Even when they move into the stack, they actually win the round quite convincingly. And that trade kill from Shiro, again, just so important that you get that early frag through the smoke as well. He had to just track where that player was. I don't think he saw him beforehand, but he kind of knew roughly where the player would be.
And you can see he doesn't instantly commit to it because he wants the spacing to be better between him and Hobbit as well. So if the AWPer is to go down there, you at least have that third rifler in to confirm the kill, to prevent that ramp control from being in possession of your opposing side. But nice shot from Shiro as well. Just ridiculous stuff. He's having a good game right now, 22 and 15.
And as you pointed out, once you get that ramp control, Hobbit and Connector has a much easier time coming through on that mid flank. It's going to be players having to look at all different angles. They're unable to lock down any of the positions early. A couple of save guns here for eSuba. We'll see if they take some liberties in this round, because so far, it's been a pretty passive CT side. This is a round where I wouldn't mind them taking a risk, maybe going for some information plays. Fortunately for them, though, they have no one on B right now, and that's where the bomb may be going.
Let's see if eSuba get the numbers back there in time. Petchin playing a spot of information.
Oh, nice.
Thought he blocked the smoke. See if Gambit are ready for that. The top connector smoke is going to be non-existent. There's going to be a gap in it, and that will allow the CTs to pick up information, crucially. Which means Petchin is starting to pick up all the info being given over from his teammates, and Nafany's down on the short play because of that connector smoke. And so now there's a chance in the B site for the CTs maybe to get players over here in time, but here come Gambit, charging their way through. Axel looking to try and open up the site. He's got his teammates trying to eliminate the bench players. Axel looks for further victims, and Twist, he gets the peek, he gets the timing, the distraction's good enough, but Shiro and Inters have pulled those kills back incredibly quickly for Gambit. Twist and Bloggers have arrived, and Gambit have not put that bomb down. Smoke off is going to try and keep the CTs alive for a little bit, but enters right through it. Hobbit's killed his own teammate somehow, and now just Savannah. 1 versus 2 with a Deagle. This should be a very difficult round to really have a shot in, especially with them doubling up together at this card position. Savannah starts to creep forward, the rifle of Hobbit. Be careful, don't kill your other teammate, as he looks for the follow-up and will not actually. Shiro takes that kill quick enough in the AWP, but Gambit recover in the chaos, Holka.
Yeah, ends up being a really chaotic scenario. Getting control of that B site was helpful, but eSuba still hung around and made it close. I actually think Bloggers just missed a shot at one point there, because it looked like he was holding from Kitchen. He had a clear line of sight. I think he just missed the shot and got swung on by the AK. This was that early kill from Bloggers, though. Blocking the connector smoke helps early. Inters there with a spray through. Ends up getting taken down by his teammate, but Gambit end up closing it out in the late round. This is where eSuba can go back to the buy, though, and that is a round where they just take 1 or 2 risks on a lower buy. They make sure they can get the AWP involved. They're actually going for a double AWP setup now on the eSuba side to try and break this 6-round streak from Gambit.
Gambit can often get off to slow starts, so it's the grinding comebacks that they are capable of, and eSuba have got to have that in the back of their head. That lead is trying to shrink. See if they can cause some problems now. Mid control looks to be established with the double AWP. Bloggers peeking from below connector. I think the shot rang up from window, so they felt more comfortable swinging out top mid and maybe get caught off by the double AWP setup, but not to be. Hobbit will be run boosted behind the top mid boxes, and Gambit look to split mid control from underpass and top mid.
Well, eSuba clearly have their way of playing on the CT side, and they're sticking to it, not contesting too heavily for this mid control. This time they are hanging around slightly more, though, seeing if those AWPs can get involved on a potential crossfire. That was a potential kill for Axel. He almost timed that perfectly, but Petchin will start to move back. And this time the mid control may actually go the way of eSuba later on. Luco's just smoked the top of connector again, so they just want to keep that connector control. But Gambit again going back to A.
Yeah, Gambit are going to send these players to ramp and palace. Quite recessive setup right now for eSuba, so if the arch just executed to the side, they would be behind the smokes.
No one's watching Nafany.
And Nafany has a chance as that AWP is starting to bring his spot back, and Nafany gets the right timing. Bloggers look towards Murder Hall, and that will actually be his death sentence. Nafany follows up, and this is where Gambit are starting to find those fights. They were losing all these duels in the first half, but now they're winning every single one of them. 2 players left for eSuba. One of them is fighting Axel on the wrong side of the map. Axel is causing problems, keeping it a difficult situation for eSuba. He's actually fighting everybody as he removes Luco. Luckily, Twist will pull that kill back. It's at least something, but Gambit are on the hunt. They're rich now. They've got all the money in the back pocket, and they will find Twist as well. Everything gone for eSuba, and really, there was no say in that round at all for the defense.
Those are the sorts of plays we want to see from Nafany. He normally is an in-game leader who likes to be front of the pack himself, likes to make those aggressive plays himself, and he's got the individual ability to pull them off. In fact, if you look at the stats, he's one of the players who attempts the entry most often at this tournament on the T side, up there at 32% of the rounds. So that's 1 in 3 rounds where he will try the first frag. And when you consider there are 5 players on a CS team, that is a very high number. Back down to pistols again for eSuba. I think they may need a timeout at some point because they're never really taking initiative in many of these rounds.
It's a double stack of apartments, and Axel is alone. Gotta hope the space is bad. Certainly it will be. Axel with 2 kills.
Looks like light work against the pistols again for Gambit. I'd love to see a round where eSuba maybe just try and commit to controlling mid early, or just something slightly different. Because Gambit's default is working really well right now. Normally just getting that early control of mid, and then often using it to split a site. And this time, looks like they'll be splitting towards B.
Yeah, Gambit have been allowed to go into the systematic destruction. And eSuba have got to be more disruptive. That was what they were doing earlier on. 5-7 has Klim 1. Let's hold it down, and he would love to get this AK twist, but he's worried about the flank from short, and it certainly won't come in. Shiro nips his heels with the Tech 9, and Savannah, he's got movement like Mihawk. Can't jump up onto short. Drops onto the bench instead and tries to fight up the AWP of Shiro. Gets up into window, and he is being flanked from all avenues. You can see Gambit playing much more confidently now. They're just removing everything. Just chipping off whatever they've got. No mercy in these fights, and now they're connecting shots. Gambit warmed up, they're in the game, no problem now. And for eSuba, this is where the real difficulty begins. They were not playing Gambit in the first couple of rounds, let's be real, Hawk, and now they are starting to play somewhat of a Gambit we're used to.
And this is the moment where they take another tactical pause. The upside of this is the coach can come in and start to give them some different ideas, because clearly what's been working out for them so far hasn't been successful. At the same time, though, this is where it does start to get somewhat scary for eSuba, where the pressure will start to build for them. I think we saw that for some of the teams earlier. Team Hungary, for example, back in the play-ins, had some moments where in those close scenarios, when they were close to the win, they couldn't get it over the line. And for a team like eSuba, this is a similar circumstance where you might start to make some silly mistakes at this point.
And players will tell you, man, when they're in the back of their head, they're like, oh my god, we're about to beat Gambit. You just start thinking about that constantly, and then you just see the scoreline start to tick on back up. You can really get in your own head. It's all about just focusing on carrying out the fundamentals in front of you, and the scoreline will take care of itself. Let's see if eSuba have got anything up their sleeve to try and disrupt Gambit's default that's been working so well. Axel's got out towards underpass again. No real challenge presented from eSuba in middle.
Luco's sticking around in connector, and Axel sitting in the smoke,
so
but it's a
quick.
quick flick for the headshot.
So quick, and that might just call straight away to go in from Palace, and Nafni's going to do that. All the kills here for Gambit, and now just one player left. It's Twist. A 1 versus 5, and Hobbit will remove him. 14-13, Gambit on the comeback trail, and eSuba, this is starting to become the nightmare that they are living. They have no money really to get anything going here in this round. They've got to scrape together a couple of pistols and play in round 29. 14-14 is likely the scoreline here for Gambit.
These are sometimes the rounds you have to be most focused on the Gambit side. This is where we may see eSuba just throw caution to the wind and take some risky plays. You said it earlier, Dinko. Gambit are a team that don't mind a comeback.
Oh, they love them.
Especially on Mirage. I remember that game against Liquid where they came back just with lockdown CT sides.
That was T sides.
Plenty of those. Yeah, it's T this time.
And Axel is starting to find some of those entries. And this could be a little confidence boost for going into the next map if they can close this out. It's like, okay, we've had a rough start of the game, but at least the positive signs with that. At least we're warmed up and we're here to play now.
And to be fair, if there's any map where it's easier to just take 1v1 fights early and dry peek people, it's probably Mirage. It's difficult for eSuba right now to actually have 2 players group up and try and make sure they get that trade kill early. Well, here is that risk from eSuba. They've stacked in towards a ramp. Fortunately for Twist, he has been left on an island on this B site. Somehow there's a deagle on the island. But I don't think that's going to be enough to help him here.
It's like Jack Sparrow, 1 bullet left in it. Who knows?
Boom.
What are you going to use it for? Shooting coconuts out of the tree, Hawker. 45 seconds. Yeah. Here comes the play forward. And it's going to allow the attack from Twist to work out onto Nafni. AK down, and now that's a rifle in the hands of a defensive player, but Gambit should have the numbers to try and glean their way through and take out this player, but through the smoke, Axel gets the double kill, but Savannah and Blogis now pulling kills back, and Gambit are sweating now. They're down a player, and they've got to commit to the bomb plant. Inters confirms it, and that's a few seconds now for the CTs to get a little closer, but with that smoke up in market, Luco couldn't really do too much with it, so Hobbit and Inters now play in the 2 versus 3 post plant. eSuba just using this time to try and get players into better positions.
No kit for the CTs, though. They have to get a move on here, and they're still taking so much time.
And Petchin is the player that's going to make this contact play. He's going to be the player to try and open up this round, but Hobbit's spot is so good. This should be good for the AK to at least take one, and now he gets the info. There's one last short, and they're going to double peek him. Savannah with a deagle gets one onto Hobbit, but couldn't quite bring it back down for Inters. Gambit scraped through to a 14th round, but eSuba put up a good fight.
You definitely see the freedom that eSuba felt they had in that round, though. They probably weren't expecting to win it anyway, so Bloggis just decides, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to sneak through this kitchen smoke and just hope they aren't watching me. And because his teammate on short survives for so long, Bloggis is able to sneak in. If only Bloggis had a rifle there, though. That's when you can maybe see him transferring onto 2. Still some solid shots from eSuba, trying to put up a fight as they've got the guns back out. It's another double AWP setup, but it's another round where Gambit are given mid for free. If Nafany gets into window in this round too, it is just wide open right now. Look at how spread apart the eSuba players are. Petchin will now move away from B, so he will start to cover off that window area where Nafany was able to make a play previously. They're leaving Bloggis on B alone with that AWP. They're confident he can lock it down. This is a risk from eSuba, but that A site has been hit fairly frequently. And if Gambit can't get this information, again, running into a stack, they've done it before and they've been successful, but it's still not bad for eSuba right now.
Bomb's coming back into A. It's going to be playing from Palace alongside Inters. They're going to try and split the A side through connector, leaving Nafany just trying to pull out rotation somehow. And towards short, trying to pull a player towards B. Re-smoke at top con.
The difference this time is the main push seems like it's meant to be through connector, but that smoke buys a good bit of extra time, and they still have more utility on the eSuba side.
And Loco is just allowed to focus on Palace, where the other prong to the approach is going to be coming
got another
through.
smoke here.
Yeah, this is going to be a nightmare. He's also got a molly. This could be a real disaster, but will he be able to use it? Smoke comes into jungle. Savannah's not pulling any nades. He's going to keep his gun out. Loco gets aggressive into Palace, and he's found one. Trade's starting to come through from Gambit as they pull it into the 3 versus 3. Twist looks to Palace for the walkout of Shiro, and he's dropped the bomb while blinded. A good flash, and Blog is following up as well. Nafany into the clutch. 1 versus 3, and there's not enough time. 15-14, eSuba find map point.
The A stack pays off for them. A well-timed smoke on connector. This time, Gambit try and split mainly from the connector side. The other players are in Palace. A really hard angle to push out from safely, so they needed the players in connector to open things up initially. And eSuba's setup was a really good one to deny that exact play from happening. They switch things up. They take a risk by leaving the AWP of Bloggis alone on B, stacking the majority of their players towards A. And it's a risk that paid off for eSuba, forcing Gambit to take their final tactical timeout as they look for overtime. We've got to see if eSuba can get another read like that, though, because that largely comes off just having so many players on A, having utility left in the late round.
Just a little display of utility dumped on the floor. Although Gambit, you know, as much as it has been a convincing comeback, there's no denying how slow the start was. They give a lot of buffer room for eSuba, and now they just need one more round. Gambit will go to overtime, or they lose Mirage. eSuba looking to start their affair in the best of 3 with a map advantage against world number 3. And here comes the play towards B right now for Gambit. 3 players with the bomb on their back, 2 towards A. 1 just holding outside of ramp and 1 Palace. Just a slower round here from Gambit, not going to be committing anytime soon.
Bloggis has been playing this B angle a lot, but he hasn't been tested so far. This is his first chance to really use it.
And Bloggis is looking for that opening spot. The barrel and the headshot right onto the axle. He knows there's 2 players, and now the crunch from Gambit, the call to go, and it's not working out. They've lost 2 players, and now what is the call? The bomb's back towards B, but the only remaining players for the T side are on the opposite end of the map. That bomb from Shiro has a long trip back to try and regroup with his teammates. He's lost in no man's land. Might have to be Saving Private Shiro moment. Smoke goes down into the site. The bomb's still at top middle, and his teammates are trying to create some pressure and create some space, and they've done that. Oh, Nafany, a double kill! Luko and Blog is down, and suddenly there's 2 players in towards CT spawn that need to do the heavy lifting. Hobbit is holding on, and they haven't crossed into the site. Now they start to drop back and figure out, are they going B? Is it going to be a B play in the final seconds of the round? And Hobbit's Molotov's going to keep them back deeper in CT. We have got a smoke available, but now Shiro has joined them. The ball will come out of Palace, and Gambit have a chance to turn this one around. Shiro puts the bomb down. Nafany's in a good post-plant position. Hobbit on the double kill, and now just 1 player left. Petchin in the 1 versus 2, and Gambit are trying to send us to overtime. Petchin has to stop them. He has to be the player to pull this map pick through right now in regulation, because he knows if they go to overtime, the hard work begins again. Nafany is in such a good position to try and flush him out, though, and Hobbit can buy some time. Smoke down onto the site. They're both ready for the post plant. And Petchin's just trying to find them, trying to pull them out, but it's not happening. And Petchin gets onto the site, but Hobbit will take him down through the smoke. It's overtime needed here on map number 1. It's got to feel bad for eSuba. They had the golden ticket to map 1, but Gambit have snatched it out of their hands.
It didn't look great for Gambit initially. They were spread out into a default across the map. They commit players into B. They lose 2 early players despite not having everyone there. But the play from Nafany was so important. They realized in the 3v5 they have to gain ground on A. They have to make something happen. Maybe even try and help Shiro move through mid. That's not what ended up happening though. He went back through ramp. That paid off. Nafany's play making all the difference. Now we get to go to overtime, and Gambit will probably feel like they've just got a second life in this game.
Gambit are favored to win now, Hawker. When you go to the overtime situation, there's no denying that. eSuba were in the better spot for such a long time, but with this comeback, with that overtime, the mental breakage is about to go down here for eSuba. They're going to feel so rough about being in this situation. Gambit have dug deep to pull themselves back, and now really for the first time, it feels like they're getting comfortable. 2-man setup in the underpass for the CT side. And Gambit pulling some utility out of the ramp. It looks like a split into the A site will be the call again.
And this is now awkward for those players in underpass. Top mid's been taken. It's hard to really get out of that angle. You may actually want to push towards B instead. Gambit slowly working on that map.
They're going back B. The ball's being sent up into the apartments. You had 2 players outside of A at the beginning of the round, but they're going towards B, and this is where that underpass play could work out. It could deliver some rewards.
But if it's a short split, then Blogis has to play proactively, and he will do just that.
Good kill coming in for Blogis. Hobbit out. Inter is trying to pull it back, and he's done a good job of getting that trade kill. And look at Nafany. Sneaky little Nafany has got himself in a good position at ladder room, and now creeps closer to the B site. He can split with his teammates. He can be that force they're not expecting. They're not ready for it. Twist needs to hold on. He can't afford to go down, and Axel cracks open his skull. Blood all over the floor, and Nafany is looking to try and clean up some more. Petchin's towards Market and starts to extend out the doorway. Peek on Nafany is there looking to flick up. Couldn't quite get the second opportunity going his way. And Savannah has been fantastic at times throughout this series, but this will be his best play of his career if he can pull off a 1 versus 3 retake against Gambit, and that's not going to happen. 16-15, Gambit take the first round of overtime.
Axel's been warming up here, but that call from Gambit just perfectly counters the underpass stack from eSuba. There was no real vision towards short the entire time because they have 2 CTs committed to underpass. So eSuba unfortunately take a risk which doesn't pay the rewards they wanted it to. See Blogis doing well on the initial kill, but Shiro holding the angle the entire time, spots that cross back, and then Axel just spotting the top of that head. Make sure he's got good spacing to trade that final teammate. It is Gambit into the lead for the first time in a long, long time.
Hobbit swings out at top mid early. Petchin is looking to try and take that first pitch because the window smoke must have been blocked or missed. And so Petchin blocked that smoke early on. They've mollied that window, and Petchin will throw a smoke down onto it. Right now just conceding that position to keep his life. There's that connector smoke being thrown out by Twist again. Gambit has smoked out top con. That connector smoke just makes you worry a little bit more on the T side. But Nafany, so often do we see him on the T side play in and around utility early on. He's a master of it. But this time, they've done a good job at getting rid of him. Pesky Nafany out of play.
So I'll just drop to smoke over towards B, maybe to try and fake that bomb drop sound.
CT's just got a lot of info, Hawker. They double peeked into mid. They see that Gambit are not there. So now they're starting to force out and reinforce that CT defense at CT spawn. There's 3 players on the A site right now as Gambit start to lean this way.
And there's only a single smoke. They can't actually go for an execute out onto A.
Well, it's going to be
They
difficult.
need flashes on this AWP.
Yeah, Savannah, he needs to be flashed off this sign court. Otherwise, it's going to get real difficult. And they've just smoked out Palace. Even with the flash, he still takes the kill on Hobbit. Gambit have lost the first player, eSuba, in a decent spot right now. They've kept Shiro out of the round, and now they've completely removed him. Inter tries to trade it out, but Gambit getting caught like fish in a barrel. They're being shot up. And there's just one player left. Nafany, the nuisance, out of play. 16-16, the scoreline tied up again. eSuba, a good round out of them there. Great info plays in mid-round, and that's going to be crucially important to being able to make the right stacks.
I think Gambit needed Nafany's lurk through mid to come sooner there because they didn't have the proper utility to be able to scale onto that A site. Only the single smoke. It is a bit unfortunate that the flash kill comes through, but it's oftentimes going to be the case that the AWP will just fire a shot while blind. He knows he can get that kill a fair, frequent amount of the time. So back to an even scoreline, and back to some Palace aggression from eSuba, something we haven't seen so far. But this will be some good ground gained early.
Mid control established for Gambit as we enter round 33. I believe there's so many options. I think eSuba right now have gone with a very passive setup. They're not going for that mid information, which was crucial to the round win in the previous. Gambit have forced them away. And what this does, it creates so many opportunities for Gambit to just split. They can decide and keep it buried and try and make it unpredictable. And with eSuba not having mid control and not knowing that mid is empty, they're open to an attack on both sides of the map, and they don't know.
Yeah, these rotates will be so long here. These B players have to overperform massively on the hold. At least they have the AWP of Bloggis, but he's about to be tested any second.
He's in a very unrecoverable spot. It's a one and done really here, and he's going to get one pick. Luckily, he gets away from it. The spacing was a little off, and so the rifle can come in to help him out. Good job done here from eSuba on the initial kills. It's pulled them into a great situation, and Gambit have got to force their way through, trying to find out at least one player on the B defense, but it's not happening. And that rotation that was so long away has now arrived. Inters has hit a brilliant headshot, but Bloggis is still alive and kicking. Taking out Shiro, gap in the smoke here for Luko to play with, and Inters is trying to find him, and Luko's so quick to relocate the crosshair, and Bloggis from the van is able to recover some crucial kills in that round. He should have been eliminated from that spot, Hawker, but he steps up to a massive performance.
That's an incredible round from Bloggis. He gets the first kill, then he's stuck in that molly behind the smoke towards bench, and he just makes the ballsy play again. He's done that a couple of times. He walks through the smoke into car, and no one from Gambit realized that was a possibility. Inters was just on the site with his back turned to that position. That allowed Bloggis to catch those players that were still in the apartments off guard. Really beautifully played by Bloggis there, out positioning Gambit. And we thought that Gambit would be the ones coming through here in overtime, but it's eSuba who take the lead at half.
And it's exactly that play from Bloggis that is the most exciting and positive sign for me, that eSuba are still willing to make those plays at this moment in the game. They're still willing to make the crazy plays, the risk plays to make it happen, and that's what's needed to get you a win. eSuba 17-16 on the board as they enter their T side. They had a great start here.
Let's see if Gambit can find some success now on CT.
No, really didn't get going for them in regulation.
Shiro deciding to AWP over towards B at the start of this round. AWPers will oftentimes switch up their position depending on what they think is the best spot to be in any particular round on Mirage.
eSuba threw the standard mid-control utility. They threw that top mid smoke, window smoke was out, and connector smoke was there, but they didn't play anybody with it. And Gambit haven't picked up that info. They still think they've lost mid.
Nafany is still hanging around towards that area, but an A execute is coming through. eSuba don't have the mid players ready to split yet, though.
This is going to be a heavy push to the ramp that needs to be successful. Axel is alone in front of the smokes. Hobbit's held in behind it, and Axel needs to kill, and Luko just removes him. Inters knows there's a player in connector, but he can't do anything about it, and as he moves forward, Savannah checks him out. Nafany just one pick up. Hobbit and Shiro thinking about tapping out of this one, but Shiro fights back, and from the ground, he's back to his feet, back into battle. Potentially a round win here for Gambit, still on the cards as Hobbit with a beautiful headshot up and in towards stairs, and that bomb is not being planted yet, and so Hobbit is down in the open. Frustration on his cam, but Shiro still has a chance. Often called a master of the clutches. We'll see if he can eliminate the other star on the other side of things. Blog is so low, and a P250 will take him down. Shiro with a huge round as he now goes to 32 kills. That's 17-17 as Gambit once again tie up the scoreline.
What a turnaround for Gambit in that round. And clearly the communication was there that the player was low because Shiro pulls out his pistol for the final player. Also, what a turnaround for Hobbit individually. He's up to 20 kills now. He's got an even KD. And in that first half, he got almost nothing done. So a lot of props to Hobbit. And this is a round where you see that impact come through from him. They lose those early fights, but eSuba took a long time actually scaling to the site, so those smokes were fading. And that's what makes a massive difference there. That's what allows the Gambit players to get those clear lines of sight they needed.
And we're battling for map point at the beginning of round 35. The magic number we need is 19. And look at Axel. Advanced position in mid this time. Here comes that top mid smoke. He has got Nafni in behind him. And this is a setup that Gambit were running a lot in regulation. Wasn't getting a lot done with it because early on eSuba were pressuring mid at least. But this time they haven't done anything with it. And so Gambit know that it has to be a straight up site execute coming in just a moment.
And that means Axel can come back to B. It's a 3B stack right now.
Surely this is 18 in the bike now for Gambit. Here comes the playthrough over the top. Intros is blinded. They haven't checked him. Shiro's got the first. Intros in with a second. Savannah with good spacing gets the refrag down into car, but that bomb is now pinned in that position. If it wants to get out, it's got to come into the crosshair of so many Gambit players, and this is just not where you want to be. Nafni's Neko soaring in, and Blog is down. 18-17. Gambit on map point. They turn it around from an awful CT half in regulation to now just one round away in overtime from taking their opponent's map pick.
And it's exactly as you pointed out. The play from Axel peeking mid is probably the most important moment of the round. They know that mid is entirely clear, so as soon as they hear anything on B, they know they can just stack that site. And Axel was just waiting below the apartments the whole time, realizing he doesn't need to expose himself to that angle, because if he just sits under the apartments, it's unlikely he will go cleared in that position. They've already seen 2 on B. They probably wouldn't be expecting the third. He didn't even need to do too much in the end. His teammates did a solid job holding the site thanks to that early information. You see eSuba going back to these rounds where they like to group up quite early on, but if Gambit play for info, that is the perfect way to counter those sorts of plays.
And what was working so well for them was that they were doing that, yes, certainly grouping up and going for the play, but they would tease a little bit of map control early. They would show some signs in mid to make Gambit uncomfortable, keep it unpredictable. But here we are, 18-17. Gambit looking to get off to a good start, and Shiro has done it. Aggressive play in Palace from Shiro, and Twist out of the round.
The information plays are coming through so much more frequently now for Gambit. Axel currently juggling an AWP over towards B. He has a rifle dropped over in kitchen as well, so if he needs to switch that out, that is an option for him here in overtime with all that money at their disposal. But it will be the double AWP setup for now.
And Hobbit will hold inside of Connector. Gambit feeling very comfortable now that they've got this man advantage, just put themselves in a very good spot right at the beginning of round 36 that they hope is the last round played here on Mirage. For eSuba, what a fight it has been from them. They do not want to give up just yet. They're going to have to show how strong their chin is. Axel's position. Surely he gets one here if the utility isn't good enough, and they walk right into Hobbit as well. They're starting to lose members at a quick rate right now, and Axel holding position, ready for the peak, but misses the shot. Now needs to deploy utility to try and keep himself alive. He has got the rifle of Inters playing out towards short side. The rotation is here as well. Gambit are doing this. There's no chance now for eSuba. Surely the 2 versus 3 is going to be absolutely massive from them, and it's not going to be. Inters and Axel take it down, and Gambit with a vicious vengeance pull back their slow start, Hawk. It was unbelievably slow from Gambit in this elimination game, but they are starting to look much better. They pulled up their socks, and now they're heading into their map pick of Overpass. They should be staying alive in this competition if they can give us a performance like they did in the second half.
And just the eye test looked so much better as that game went on. If you just tuned in, you may be thinking 1917, not a great result for Gambit.
No.
But the way they played as that game went on looked much, much better. Yeah. You just see the confidence come back into them. Axar's taking information plays. Shiro pushing into Palace. Just so much more confidence shown there in that overtime on their CT side. And that's great to see.
Yeah, it's great to see Gambit bouncing back, but also great to see eSuba with a fight in them, right? That first half performance out of them was absolutely massive. We love to see eSuba showing up and having the confidence, even when we went to overtime. Blogus is showing he's the real deal. He's still willing to go for some crazy plays. So I'm looking forward to seeing them on Overpass. I think they could give us a real show.
I hope so too, because their team play's been solid.
Yeah.
I think they've been having some good moments throughout this tournament, so hopefully we will see that come through.
Well, before that, we've got to go to a short break, and then we'll be back with the Des to hear their thoughts on Map 1 before we jump into Overpass of Map 2 in this elimination matchup.